I declare and decree in this season, I will submit to the voice of the Holy Spirit calling my name. I am walking in the fullness of his purpose and plan for me and my life. It is my...
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of She Emerged, the Manifestation of Me, with me, your host, S.H.E. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you tapping in, and I just want to thank you all for your continued support. This has been a very long journey with this podcast and the book. If you don't have your copy, make sure you pick up your copy at www.savedhealedenough.com or on Amazon. It is available for purchase. It is the book is about me, and I'm sharing some pivotal traumatic moments in my life, and they are just moments, because I refuse to give them any more leverage or any more space. And I'm talking about these moments and how I overcame them, how they shaped my growth and my overall growth and development, and how I came out of that. So it is just a snippet of some of the things, the traumas, my childhood traumas and life's traumas that I've overcome. And I also wrote an accompanying guided journal. This journal is my journal, and I decided to turn it into a book because it helped me so much. I use a lot of references to women in the Bible who have encountered some similar things to what I've gone through, what we as women go through, children today. And there's some really great writing prompts in there and things that can help you on your healing journey. So I hope that you grab your copy. And I pray that it helps you as much as it helped me. So in my last video, I kind of touched on some of the things that I've gone through over my life. And this is part 2 of that, because I wanted to really get in and break down some of those behaviors and situations. And I thought it would be helpful to give you a greater understanding of my mindset. And I just pray you take something from all of this. So, I talked about or touched on my toxic connection and relationship to my mother. And I spoke about how I spent a great portion of my life trying to fix it, because I felt like it was my responsibility to do so. And when you are trained to believe that you owe this person something because they gave you life, you tend to take on more than what you should. And so although she really didn't have much to give me, because again, and I always say this, because of her own traumas, I then took on the role of caretaker. I took on the role of caregiver, of protector, because I felt that that was my responsibility for my own selfish reasons, because I felt like if I could fix her, then I could fix me and I could fix us, because I had an innate desire to have a connection with her that just was not there. And I didn't realize until later in life that she just didn't have it to give me, because she didn't have it. And I had to give her some grace, because the same grace that I wanted someone to extend to me while I was going through what my journey, because she had suffered some things. And again, some things that she was not allowed to heal from, not giving the resources to heal from. And so I've learned to give her that grace. However, it was never my responsibility to save her, nor is it yours to save whomever it may be that, you're having these issues with. It was never my responsibility to heal her. It was equivalent to her drug addiction until she chose to be sober, until she chose to face that thing head on, or those things head on, and heal from them. She was never going to heal. She was never going to be better. She had to want to be better. And as a child, you don't see that. Um, you just don't know that. As an unhealed person, you don't see it and you don't know it. You cannot fix someone who is not willing, ready, or able to be fixed. And even then, you're not the person to do the fixing. You're not their God. They have to want it and fight for it and take the steps to get it the best way that they can. You can be a support loosely, but not to the detriment of yourself. You have to um, focus on your own healing because of the damage that was done to you. And I say that because I made that mistake of trying to sacrifice myself um, to ensure her healing and mental health, and that was just not my place. That was not for me to do. Um, in essence, she was supposed to be protecting and covering me, and because of her poor choices, she was unable to do that for me, along with the things that she suffered. So you don't get a pass for choosing not to heal. Because although the tools weren't given to her, there came a point in time where the resources were available for her to do better. And it was easier for her to sit in that and sacrifice, so much of her life and mine along with it for her own selfish reasons. So that was her choice. Um, Very narcissistic behavior. And again, because the world is now in a space where it's acknowledging mental health, a lot more things and opportunities and tools are coming to the forefront. And I can say that she's kind of still unwilling to heal. I love her. I will always have love for her, just not in the way that she desires. It won't ever be a self-sacrificing love ever again. Because why do I have to sacrifice myself because you chose not to make your situation better? And I had to start to see it in that way because if I did not choose to be better, I wouldn't have the life that I had. And if I was able to make the personal choice to be better and overcome those things that hurt me, why can't you do the same thing? That's a personal choice. So I also touched on at the end of the video, that the narcissistic parent that chooses to displace all of their troubles, um, and not just their troubles, their wants and their needs off on their children um, for their own personal reasons. And let me touch on those things. That includes parental isolation, isolating them and talking poorly about the other parent. So a lot of self promotion, the all that I have done, all that I have given when it was a personal choice. You chose to isolate that other parent. If that other parent is willing and able to participate in their child's life and you purposefully, for your own selfish reasons or bitterness, choose to ice them out of their child's life, that's a you problem. It's not fair to the child and there's no justification for it. If there's no abuse, no neglect, no real reasons, viable reasons for this person to not be in their child's life, you are wrong. Adult problems should not become kids' problems. The child was not a part of the relationship, a product of, but not a part of. So, therefore, that child shouldn't have to suffer for the failure of the relationship, the lack of relationship, none of it. It's not that child's responsibility. It is on you as the parent to provide the best environment to help that child thrive and grow and develop in a healthy way. And when you start to impose adult foolishness onto children, the environment is no longer healthy. It's no longer helpful, and it's not contributing to that child's overall best interest, growth, and development. You are wrong. When you start to treat the child as your pacifier, and I mean, like, the child is becomes your comfort. You're hiding, please. That's wrong. That's wrong. You don't put that kind of stress on a child. Deal with your adult issues like an adult. If you are wounded and broken, how dare you bleed all over that child? That child doesn't even have the tools to carry the weight of your adultness. They've not grown into that yet. So you're in essence creating another generation of unhealthy by breaking the child. So now the child is broken and wounded and confused and taking on your stress when they shouldn't be. That child is not your best friend. Get you some adult friends. That child is also not your redo on life. Children are people, they're individuals who deserve to have their own identity. It is not for you to have a child to impose your identity on them as your do over in life because of the things that you didn't do. If you didn't do it, that's on you. Your job is to cultivate that child into the person that they are meant to be so that they can go out and meet the world on their own terms. Not be your redo. Whatever you didn't do, you have time to fix it. If you chose not to fix it, then that's on you, not on the child. They also shouldn't be your financial resource. Like, you're not, you isolating them from the other parent and using them as financial leverage. Wrong. Very much just wrong. Like, that just shouldn't be. Your finances is your business. Now, should the other parent have to contribute? Absolutely. But the child should never be used as leverage for you to extort money out of the other parent. That is just not. It's, Lord have mercy. It's just not. Grow up. If you need extra money, get a second job. Hit your personal goals and change your career choices. But you can't use your kid as a job, your financial leverage against the other parent. That is wrong. Or to extort money out of other family members using the pity party. That is wrong as well. Um, again, work on you. Be healthy for you. More importantly, don't have a kid if you're not ready to deal with it. But that's another story for another day. So those were some of the things that I wanted to touch on when I spoke about the narcissistic parent. The parent that isolates the kid from the other parent, um, parental alienation, the parent that utilizes the child as a crutch, the parent that utilizes the child as a paycheck, um, as a way to get attention from other people. It's always a woe is me when it comes to the kid, because you need a conversation starter. And in the process of that, you got people looking at your kid sideways because it's always the woe is me. And half of what you're saying is not even true, because you just need, an attention. You need attention, and you don't care how you get it, even if it's at the expense of the child. That is wrong as well. Um, my mother was guilty of that. She would get in front of people and just straight humiliate me, over exaggerate things that I'd done, sometimes just flat out lie about things that I'd done just to have a talking point, to make people pity her because she loved and embraced the victim mentality. And by doing that, she caused people to look at me a certain way. And it became fruit of the poisonous tree because now you got these adults looking at me like I am a horrible child, when in reality it's simply your mental illness and your desire to be a victim, even at my expense. And because she did that, it created a trickle down effect. These adults would then say these things in front of an earshot around their children, who then started to look at me a certain way and cause them to treat me away. Because if everybody around you is treating this person, this child, a certain way, kids mimic the behavior that they see. So it then caused, you know, the children to start treating me poorly because they thought they could. Because if, again, the example that was being set, but the root of it was always my mother. Um, it was just easier for her to bash me for attention than it was to just be a normal, healthy adult and get your life together. She chose not to. And so I became the scapegoat, even in my adult life. There would have been moments where she would try to assassinate my character for pity. And I'm gonna be honest, that was one of my most motivating factors to start to have boundaries with her and limit the contact. Even there were periods where I went no contact because it was so harsh. And once I would, initiate no contact or limited contact, then I would get an apology, or you misunderstood, or I didn't mean it that way. There was always then the love bombing. Do you need anything? What do you want? Um, all of that. Um, I in my adult life, I've even been accused of being the reason why she has limited income and resources. And I'm like, ma'am, you don't have anything for me to take from you. But depending on the audience, if she thought it was going to garner her some attention, then she would just drag me for filth. And I'm like, here I am fighting for you, trying to help you get resources to make sure that um, you live out the end of your days comfortable and in a safe environment. And you are dragging me for filth. And then you think an apology is going to make it all better. It won't. And it didn't. It just helped me, motivated me to create bigger boundaries and put more space and distance between us. I'll see about you from over here. I'll never see you hurt, but I'm going to be over here. Um, and so those are some of the things that you need to be aware of when you're dealing with a toxic parent. That is not normal. It is not normal to bash your children. Even if my children are doing something wrong, what I will never do is talk about them in public and tarnish their name and attack their character. I'm going to deal with them, but I'm going to deal with them. I'm not going to put them in a position to be judged harshly by others, because what I may think or say in frustration um, may not be the long lasting impression that I want someone to have of my child. So I'm going to be mindful of my words, first and foremost. On top of that, everything is just not for everybody. We are living in a world where people will attack, and especially a young Black woman, they latch on to the bad. They latch on to that and they ride that wave. So why would I then go out and talk about my kids in a bad and put them in a bad light to anybody? Because people will hold on to that, and then they will treat your children a certain way. Not mine. But I wasn't afforded that opportunity. There were a lot of horrible rumors that were started about me because she had a victim mentality and she needed conversation pieces. And so I became the conversation piece. Um, and unfortunately, it happens more than not. That is what happens to us. There's also what goes on in this house stays in this house. So you can do all kinds of wrong, and I'm not allowed to ask for help. I'm not allowed to open my mouth and speak out, or I'll be demonized in my community because I spoke out. Do you know how much backlash I got for writing a book where I told my truth? And it's not as if I said anything that anyone in the family didn't know. It's the fact that I said it out loud. Nobody acknowledged the fact that I was broken, alone, homeless, and afraid as a kid. and none of you fought for me, but you found it easy to join in on the banter and talk about me. She's mischievous. She's a liar. She's, not a good kid. And what made me all those things? Could it be the fact that I'm living from pillow to post and I don't have a home to call my own? Could it be the fact that I'm stealing food? Uh Nobody like that doesn't raise a red flag. Oh, she was shoplifting and she's a thief. Well, did you ask them what I stole? Because I was literally stealing food, not just to feed myself, but to feed us. But that didn't matter. It didn't matter that I was reduced to that. Um, it didn't matter that I lived in a car. None of that mattered. I was the conversation piece. And so the other adults, the ones that could have and should have helped me, just jumped on the bandwagon because it was easier than challenging and acknowledging what was wrong. Because I guess at that point, then you would have to acknowledge what drove her to be that way. But another story for another day. When you grow up in that kind of environment, you do carry those things into adulthood. So now you're judging a broken adult who started out as a broken child that nobody attempted to help. So no, none of those things are right. And as an adult, I carried some of those broken pieces with me and caused myself some heartache, along the way. Nothing that I didn't recover from. To God be all the glory, because I'm sure if the enemy and the people would have had it their way, I'd be, broke down and on drugs and probably unalived. But I'm not. And I think to myself sometimes, I wonder if that bothers them, that I became so much more than what they all deemed me to become. Well, joke's on you. Um, but anyway, so those are some of the traits of the narcissistic parent. Now, some of you might ask, um, well, where was your dad? Now, let me just put this disclaimer out there. Watch it, because I love my daddy. I love my mama too. I love my daddy. Um, and my dad had his own sets of struggles. And of course, there was a lot of parental alienation going on. And so um, he just found it easier to not damage me more by keeping me in the middle of a fight. And again, he was working through and fighting through some of his own battles. And when he was able, he did. And when he wasn't, um, he just wasn't. My grandmothers did step in and helped as best they can, but they were older. And I was like a kid running around busy. Um, and it's hard for them to, and there were a lot of us to keep up with. So, but they did the best that they could. And so what little um, stability I did have, it came from them. I am a grandma's girl. I love my grandmas, and I have an old soul because of my grandmas. Um, and I'm super grateful to have had them. But I was also blessed with a village, and the few in the village who did step in would ensure that I had some support, a place to stay, and stuff like that. And I'm grateful to them for that. But not many of them would challenge my mother either. And that happens a lot where families will often step in, some family members or friends, and do things to make sure that the child has clothes and shoes and food and things of that nature, but they never correct the behavior in the parent, in the mother. They don't correct the behavior. They overlook it. They coddle them. And that was very damaging, because what what example are you showing me, that she can behave in this manner and y'all just gonna gloss over that? And I'm gonna help you, and I'm gonna give a little bit to these kids, but I'm not gonna teach you how to be better. I'm not gonna correct the behavior. I'm not gonna tell you that you're wrong. I'm just going to make excuses for it. Um, and that's what I was faced with. And so again, in my adult life, because one or two things or three things happens. You either become what you're taught in your environment, you become, or you become the polar opposite, or you just get consumed by the grief, the hurt, and you just kind of fade away. So after running headfirst into the brick wall of rebellion, because I'm going to rebel against everybody and everything, um, because I'm hurt, I became the complete opposite. I begun to become the complete opposite. And so I was a person with no boundaries. And I just overloved, over accepted, overvalued people who didn't deserve it, because I was so hell bent on just not becoming my mother, or not becoming the things that people, the negative things that people spoke over and into my life. I refuse, to be those things. So I'm just going to go and be the complete opposite. Well, that didn't work either, because I ended up inviting people into my life and loving on people who didn't reciprocate it. Um, and then I was hurt because they didn't reciprocate it. And reception is perception. So the way I received it was the way I perceived it. And then I learned a hard lesson. They didn't ask for that. They didn't ask for my purview of them. And as I started to see that I was projecting what I thought certain things should look like onto other people, I recognized and realized that I was still holding on to um, a lot of my childhood trauma. And that is when I made the decision um, to start my healing journey, because I was losing more than I was gaining. And so that is how those things affected my upbringing, my some of those things, and some of my overall growth and development, the characteristics that I developed. Um, it came from those spaces. And so those were my starting points. A, the things that I didn't want to become, and B, the way that I had become. And I realized that both ends of the spectrum were toxic, and I needed to find a healthy medium. And so I started my healing journey, and I started to address those things that were at the forefront, the most damning characteristics, the ones that were hurting me the most, and the ones also that were going to affect my parenting, because by this time I was a mother. And I found myself overindulging my children, and just shutting myself off and hiding behind them because they were the best thing to me, um, that I'd ever accomplished, because I was always told that I wouldn't be able to do anything, or amount to anything. And so they became my pride and my joy. And so I realized that it wasn't healthy, and I had to find another way. And I didn't want to be that narcissistic parent. I didn't want to be that unhealthy parent, but I wanted to be a great parent. And so there I started working on that. And one of the first steps that I had to take was to put boundaries in place, not just for others, but for myself. So I had to put some things in place to stop me from going overboard, and gentle reminders that, yep, you're going too far. And it wasn't easy. And it took me a long time to really, really get to a balance. And I have to say that my husband um, was a big help in that way, because he would reel me in. And then when I found a real sisterhood, my sisters, who are now a huge part of my village, also helped me. Um, and so it was like years, in the making of this like healing journey. And then that's when I decided to share and write the book. Um, so, that this is part two, touching on my story and those nasty characteristics that really kind of affected me. And I just wanted to go over and go into a little bit more depth with the who, you know, you are versus who they think you are, and the traits of what is considered today the proper term for it is a narcissistic parent. We just call it toxic in the hood. Um, and why those things are toxic. And again, my story is my story. So these are things that are personal to me. Um, I pray that you take the best part of what I'm sharing for yourself. And I pray that it helps you on your own healing journey. I encourage you to start your healing journey because there's a freedom that comes with not having that weight on you and somebody else's weight. You are not their tragedies, their mistakes, and their traumas are not yours to carry. And I'm excited that, these things are being brought to the forefront. I cannot stress that enough in this day and age, because a lot of you are getting what I didn't get. I didn't have people encouraging me to be whole and healthy and happy. I had people encouraging me to just move forward and accept what I was given. But that's a lie. I am worth so much more, and my mental health matters. Self care matters. Um, and that is the purpose of these conversations. So, thank you for joining me for another episode of She Emerged, the Manifestation of Me, with me, your host, Shalimar Cherie. Pick up a copy of my first written work, She Emerged, the Manifestation of Me, and the She Emerged guided journal. I pray that it helps you on your healing journey. I pray that you are encouraged by my candor. Um, Again, take the best part of this for yourself. And I am not a licensed professional psychiatrist or psychologist. I am a nurse who is a mental health advocate. And so, always, before you start digging really deep and getting into the recesses of your mind and the level of your trauma, get yourself a therapist. It is okay. It's not taboo. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. Therapy helps. Having an outside outlet helps. Get a therapist that you can identify with, and that is going to be able to help you because this is a very personal journey. Okay, very personal. And so you want to have people around you that you can trust with that information, and not everybody can be trusted with that. So be mindful of who you choose to share with. And I pray more people do what I'm doing. Talk about it, get it out. It's your story to tell. You don't owe anybody anything, and you deserve to be heard. So, as always, the sun rises and sets alone every day and still manages to shine. The moon rises every night and still manages to light someone's way. Be the light, the best light you can be, and have a good day. Thank you for joining me.
Reaping season, and I shall reap the harvest of my labor as promised. I have been called,